High-intensity interval training, HIIT, is one of the most efficient, scientifically validated workout formats for improving cardiovascular health, fat oxidation, and metabolic flexibility. And yet, for many people, it feels like torture. The breathlessness, the burning muscles, the elevated heart rate that feels more like panic than progress. These sensations can trigger avoidance, not motivation. But what if the mind's negative reaction to HIIT isn't fixed? What if, through a process of gradual exposure and neural adaptation, the brain could actually learn to enjoy intensity? This isn't just wishful thinking. It's rooted in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself based on experience. Like any form of stress, the perception of high-intensity effort is shaped by both physiological input and mental interpretation. The good news is, interpretation is trainable. When someone first encounters HIIT, their brain is flooded with novelty and threat signals. The sympathetic nervous system fires up. Heart rate spikes. Breathing becomes rapid. Cortisol and adrenaline surge. For an untrained individual, this physiological storm is often misread as danger. This isn't laziness. It's the brain doing its job to protect the body from perceived harm. But perception is not reality. And repeated, controlled exposure can teach the brain to reclassify that same sensation from threat to challenge and eventually to reward. Small, manageable doses are the gateway. Research shows that early positive experiences with HIIT, short intervals, longer rests, and moderate intensity can build confidence while minimizing negative associations. Over time, this gradual exposure alters brain circuitry. The insula, which interprets internal body signals, begins to send less alarmist messages. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive control, learns to override the quit impulse. The amygdala, the emotion center, starts to dial down its fear response. With repetition, discomfort becomes familiar, and familiarity breeds tolerance. But there's more. With repeated exposure, the brain also begins to release reward chemicals like endorphins and endocannabinoids more efficiently in response to effort. This is what many athletes call the afterburn high, a feeling of euphoria, clarity, and calm that follows a hard interval session. While this may seem inaccessible at first, studies show that even moderate engagement in HIIT over just a few weeks can sensitize the brain's reward system to associate intensity with pleasure, not punishment. Importantly, framing matters. When HIIT is presented not as a test of toughness, but as an exploration of capacity, a temporary discomfort with measurable benefit, the brain's narrative begins to shift. Cognitive reappraisal, a psychological strategy where a person consciously changes their interpretation of a situation, is especially useful here. By learning to interpret breathlessness as a signal of adaptation or muscle burn as evidence of change, individuals can turn symptoms of strain into signs of progress. Even language influences perception. Phrases like, "It's only 30 seconds, you've done harder things," or "this discomfort is temporary," can modulate emotional reactions and reshape mental habits. Over time, this reframing forms a positive feedback loop. More exposure leads to less dread leads to more consistency, and consistency leads to greater neural and physical adaptation. What's especially encouraging is that this mental transformation is not limited by age or fitness level. Older adults and previously sedentary individuals show measurable improvements in both physical tolerance and psychological receptivity to HIIT with proper programming. The trick is to respect the learning curve, using intensity strategically, not as a shock to the system, but as a tool for engagement, growth, and empowerment. Ultimately, learning to love HIIT is less about forcing yourself through pain and more about training your brain to reinterpret it. Like any skill, it starts small. But with repetition, reflection, and reframing, high-intensity exercise can evolve from something you dread into something your brain begins to crave, not just for its physical rewards, but for the mental clarity, resilience, and satisfaction it delivers. Intensity, when approached intelligently, becomes less of a barrier and more of a breakthrough. And with each session, you're not just improving your cardiovascular fitness, you're reshaping how your brain responds to challenge, how it processes discomfort, and ultimately, how it defines success.